Hi, and welcome to the Creative Content Marketer Audio Editing Part 3. Today we're going to finish up the focus on audio editing with a little bit more of the advanced editing capabilities in GarageBand. But first we're just going to kind of review the interface and what you're able to do within that interface. Now, if you remember from last time, just to kind of go over, provide like an overview of how to get comfortable with the GarageBand interface. And just to provide a reminder, GarageBand is similar in layout to some of the more professional tools like Pro Tools or Logic Audio. It's a little bit more consumer friendly. It doesn't have all the plugins that some of the more professional tools have, but I think for most marketing purposes, it serves fine. If you look up here, if you remember, you have different tracks and you can have multiple tracks. And I think with GarageBand, you have up to 99. Again, because we're doing this more for marketing purposes, it's probably more than enough. You may never use more than, say, 10. It really depends on what kind of project you're using it for. As you can see, you have different tracks, and highlighting the different tracks, you can see the recordings on them. And if you remember, the first track that we looked at was a voiceover. And if we highlight, if you go over here, you can see that you have the solo option. If I play that.
Solutions often sacrifice functionality for price. Others, offering free options, usually require external plugins to fully operate. Your best choice is a platform that's both affordable.
And then underneath that, it's able to do a musical background. And again, if I play them both together.
Low-cost solutions often sacrifice functionality for price. Others, offering free, understand your potential customer shopping as the full.
Okay, so you can now see that it's getting a little convoluted. So what you do is once you're ready to produce the final track, you enter what they call the mastering stage. And if you look at the individual tracks, you can see up here that you can change the audio levels just by moving the lever back and forth. You also have the option of panning it. And by panning, I mean you can move within the aural space that's presented. You can move a track to either the left side or the right side in varying degrees of each. Or in the case of the vocal, you leave it dead center. Now, the other thing that you can do with these tracks, again, it's a little bit more involved, but just to kind of go over it, you can actually automate the volume and the panning. Now you see here, if you select this, then it highlights the options that you can use to either raise or lower the volume, or if you go to panning, moving it, automating the move to the left or the right. So if you wanted to do something a little bit more elaborate, let's say if you wanted to slowly pan a sound from left to right, you would just click where you wanted to start and then click where you wanted to end. And you would just either move it up or move it down. Now you probably won't be able to hear this on the recording, but by doing this, I've slowly panned it to the left and then slowly panned it to the right. Now, same thing with volume, you can already see that. Instead of going left or right, the volume goes up or down. So we start here, the volume starts out at normal level, and then it dips down, and then it raises back up. So again, depending on how you want to do that, if you wanted to get into that, you're able to automate the process. Now, if you're not going to do that, then to kind of give a little bit more space and a little bit more clarity to each sound, it's usually best to try to pan and put sounds in different positions within the aural space. So with drums and vocals, you can usually leave those center. Sometimes people like to move the drums a little off center. Bass, you can move it a little bit to the right. The other bass to the left. Again, you're not going to be able to hear that on this recording, but you can visually see that you have those options to move the sound and create a wider aural landscape. All right, so now the music is a little too loud, so I want to bring down some of the music tracks.
Understand your potential customer shopping habits. And their interests to improve business is that platform.
All right, and doing this, it's really, preference. It's up to your preferences and how you feel the music is performing. Just as a recommendation, if you're doing this on a computer and you're using computer speakers, some of those speakers are not very good in terms of audio quality and presenting the audio as it should be. So it's really recommended to get what they call flat monitor speakers. The speakers that you find with your computer or that you have the option to buy, usually they're more for the gaming elements, and they have kind of an increased bass and treble response. That's to kind of enhance the music that's coming from your computer. What you want is a flat response to your music, because then you'll get a truer representation of the music that is coming out of your computer. Guitar Center or some of the more professional music stores in your area probably have those speakers. And you don't have to go all out, because again, if you're doing this for the internet, most people just have, again, the basic speakers. So the other thing you can do is, if you're not willing to invest in those speakers, is to kind of test how your sound or your music sounds on different devices. And that's including mobile devices, because people will probably come across your marketing project on various devices. So that's just a recommendation. And again, if you're wanting to do something a little bit more elaborate or burn it to CD and provide people CDs, you probably want to go a little extra and try to get the best representation of your music so you can be able to hear what people might be hearing on their computer. Now, the other thing you can do in terms of mastering, and if I show this, show master track, you can also do the same thing that you do with the individual tracks. The master track controls the overall output of the sound. So again, pitch, tempo, volume. You can add automation. If you wanted to add automation to an echo or a reverb or an EQ, you can do that as well. Again, that's a little bit more for people that are familiar with mixing music and mastering music. But again, if you're adventurous, it's there for the options. Now, with the master track, and just with each individual track, you have the option of adding effects. Now, if you want to, let's just highlight the drum track. Now it has what they call edge drums on it. And you can play it over and over and see which ones you like. This kind of gives it a different flavor. Same thing with the bass. Now this one is actually allowing the sound to be changed. And what this is, it's a little bit different than the actual loop recordings. These are actual MIDI tracks. And MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And again, it's a little bit more elaborate, but basically what it is, it's music that's played and represented by sounds that are within the program. So if you look down here, I'm clicking on the keys. So I could actually go in and actually add additional notes to this recording. That's the difference between MIDI and an audio recording, is MIDI has the option of allowing you to edit the track that you made by adding new notes or subtracting notes that you've already recorded. And it also allows you to say, let's say one of the notes that you played is slightly off the rhythm that you wanted. You can go in and actually click on those notes and move them to where you want it. What's that called? There's an actual process called quantizing, where you can actually quantize it to the nearest either quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. Again, if you're not familiar with music, basically that's the subdivisions of the time that musicians play against. But to continue, you can get different sounds and change. So I kind of like that. So if I just
Understand your potential.
Okay, and then lastly, I think that kind of goes well with the bass. So now let's just listen to that. Okay. The other thing is sometimes when you add those effects, the levels get changed a little bit. So guitar's a little bit low. Okay. So now we have the musical track and then we have the voiceover track.
Low-cost solutions often sacrifice functionality for price. Others, offering free options, usually require external plugins to fully operate. Your best choice is
So let's just turn it down a little bit.
BannerOS is that platform. Dashboard gives you quick access to your website's content. With Dashboard, you can see website visitor activity, access the most recent.
Let's add a little bit of vocal effect.
Recently used banner group modules, and add any updated web content to your website, all without the need for a web programmer. Understand your potential customer shopping habits and their interests to improve business results. BannerOS tracks website visitors and their activity to build comprehensive visitor profiles. Use the data to create offers better suited to your target demographic. BannerOS takes the guessing out of online marketing by providing easy-to-understand website statistics. Learn who's visiting, what path they are taking throughout your entire online presence.
So Male Basic seems to be fine. If we go back.
Low-cost solutions often sacrifice functionality for price. Others, offering free options, usually require external plugins to fully operate. Your best choice is a platform that's both.
Okay, so pretty happy with that. Now if you go to master volume, the master track, you're actually able to add an overall effect to the sounds that are playing.
Low-cost solutions often sacrifice functionality for price. Others, offering free options, usually require external plugins to fully operate. Your best choice is a platform that's both affordable and designed to help instantly grow your business. BannerOS is that platform. Dashboard gives you quick access to your website's content. With Dashboard, you can see website visitor activity, access the most recently used banner group.
So with that, have a basic track ready to export. Now again, I can always go back. The nice thing about this is if I export it out and at a later date decide that I want to change something or add something to this track, I can always do this because this is non-destructive. Just like any file, it's all saved within the file. Again, once I'm ready to export it, let's go up to Share and Export Song to Disk. Now you have options. Now if you're wanting to use it in, let's say, a video track, if you're wanting to add this to a video, If you want to, you can uncompress it. And basically what that means is it doesn't do anything to remove some of the digital information to make the file smaller. You can wait to do that within the video editing program that you may be using. But if you're just wanting to do, let's say you're doing a podcast and you want to be able to stream it, it's best to compress it, because obviously the smaller the file, the faster the file will download and begin streaming for somebody that is listening to it. And obviously MP3 is the typical file format to use. ACC is a little bit more of the Apple side. And again, you can choose what quality that you want to do. Usually medium quality is probably the best. So you can see, kind of gives you details. Stereo optimized for music and complex audio. Estimated file size, 5.5 megabytes. So again, that's pretty good. Now again, you can go to custom settings and go in here and set it. Usually 96K is it's a pretty good level to do. Again, it just depends on who you're trying to target. And you can experiment with the sounds or the levels that you want to set it at. But usually the 3 different levels of quality are probably good enough for you to use. And you can always go higher quality, go high quality, you can go good quality. And it really depends on how elaborate your project is. If you were just doing a podcast, you could probably get away with good quality. Kind of play both sides. You can go with the high quality and get a pretty decent sound. Again, because people prefer their music portable than quality, I think most of the audience today is kind of used to I'll just say it, a less than favorable sound quality. But again, if you're like me and want to do everything of high quality, try to do everything at a level that can be flexible, whether people are listening to it on their smartphone or whether they're listening to it on their stereo or within their car. However, the other thing you can do is you can obviously export multiple versions. You can do one of the lower qualities for smartphone. You can do the higher qualities for people that are listening to it on a much better quality system. So once that's ready, you just export it just like any file. You give it a name and export it out. Then obviously you get to decide what to do with that file. Going forward, we'll start to look at importing audio tracks into a video editing program. And this is where obviously it gets a little bit more elaborate. But going forward, obviously we started with photo editing, we got into audio editing, and now we're going to go into video editing. All these samples and all these elements can be combined into what I consider a multimedia project. So with these tools, whether you're using GarageBand or if you're even willing to go to the professional level of using Pro Tools, or if you're on the Windows side and you're using something like Acid Pro. And again, you can also look at some of the programs that are online based. There's a lot of programs that are starting to come up, and there's a lot of these companies that are trying to produce software where you just log in and you have your project there. with audio and with video, it becomes a little more tough to do online because of the file sizes that you're working with. If you have a fast internet connection, obviously that's beneficial, but still, even with video and audio, it does take a little bit more processing power to handle that. So with that, I hope this audio section gave you some insight on how to produce just basic audio for your projects, whether it's just strictly podcasting or whether you're wanting to do something more elaborate like a video with accompanying soundtrack. With that, I'll let you go and I will see you later.